Why do witches ride brooms? The chilling origins behind a familiar symbol. The image is iconic. A sinister green skin witch streaking across the moonlit sky on a broomstick. It's a staple of Halloween decor, a centuries-old stereotype. But the truth behind why witches ride brooms is far stranger and darker than fiction. While the exact origin of the broom is lost to time, sweeping as a human activity dates back to ancient civilizations. Early tools were crafted from bundled twigs and natural fibers, used to clear hearths, ash, and sacred spaces. Even the New Testament, penned in the 1st and 2nd centuries AD, makes mention of sweeping, underlining its deep cultural roots. The term broom itself comes from the shrub used to make these early tools. It slowly replaced the Old English word besom, though both terms coexisted well into the 18th century. But what's most significant isn't the tool, it's who used it. From the beginning, the broom was a symbol of female domesticity. It was ordinary, familiar, innocent, and that's what made it the perfect disguise. The first known confession of witches riding brooms didn't come from a woman, but from a man. Guillaume Edelin, a priest near Paris, was arrested in 1453 after publicly mocking the church's teachings on witchcraft. Under torture, he admitted to signing a pact with the devil and flying through the air on a broomstick. He later repented, but never walked free again. By then, the legend had already taken flight. In 1451, 2 years before Edelin's trial, an eerie image appeared in Lou Champion de Dames, a manuscript by French poet Martin Lefranc. In it, 2 women soared through the air, one on a broom, the other on a simple white stick. Both wore scarves tied tightly over their heads, identifying them as Waldensians, a Christian sect declared heretical for one reason among many. They allowed women to preach. What began as accusations of heresy morphed into darker suspicions. The broom, once a symbol of humble domestic labor, was transformed into an emblem of nocturnal flight, forbidden knowledge, and female rebellion. So, why do witches ride brooms? Not because of fairy tales, but because centuries ago, a common household object became entangled in fear, faith, and the persecution of women who defied social order. The broom became their scapegoat, and their wings. Flying witches and pagan rituals. The dark roots of the broomstick legend. Anthologist Robin Skelton suggests that the eerie image of witches flying on broomsticks may trace back to ancient fertility rites. In rural Europe, long before the shadow of the witch trials, farmers gathered on a full moon to leap and dance astride poles, pitchforks, or brooms, believing the ritual would inspire their crops to grow taller. These broomstick dances were acts of pagan magic, bound to the rhythm of the seasons. But over time, such rituals blurred into suspicion, fear, and myth. What began as an innocent rite of agricultural hope was later twisted into something darker. Tales of witches flying through the night to secret Sabbaths, orgies, and unspeakable gatherings. The broom became more than a tool or a symbol. It became a vessel for spiritual transgression. And then came the flying ointments. By the 14th century, broomsticks weren't just symbolic. They were functional, at least in the minds of witch hunters. When Lady Alice Keitler, a wealthy Irish widow, was accused of sorcery in 1324, authorities claimed to have found a mysterious pipe of ointment in her home, used, they said, to grease a staff upon which she ambled and galloped through thick and thin. Pharmacologist David Kroll notes that such salves may have included plants like deadly nightshade, henbane, mandrake, and jimsonweed, all containing tropane alkaloids, potent hallucinogens known to induce vivid, dreamlike experiences. According to some historical accounts, these concoctions weren't swallowed. They were absorbed through the skin, often in extremely sensitive areas of the body. In his work Murder, Magic, and Medicine, author John Mann cites 15th century theologian Jordan de Bergamo, who wrote that the vulgar believe, and the witches confess, that on certain nights they anoint a staff and ride on it to the appointed place, or anoint themselves under the arms and in other hairy places. This wasn't metaphor. It was confession, under duress perhaps, but chilling all the same. The broomstick, once a humble symbol of domestic life, had become the ultimate vehicle of transformation, carrying witches not just through the skies, but through altered states of consciousness, rebellion, and ritual power. Anxiety over witchcraft fuels the flight of legends. By the late Middle Ages, Fear had become fuel for the legend. The most vivid and enduring stories of witches riding broomsticks emerged during periods of intense anxiety over witchcraft, times when truth blurred with terror. Much of what we know about medieval witchcraft comes from the confessions of the accused, men and women interrogated, often tortured, by inquisitors and church officials. Their testimonies, forced under duress, became the foundation for centuries of folklore and fear. It's unclear whether any of these confessions reflected actual practices, or simply what authorities wanted to hear. But the myth took root. By the 17th century, reports of witches soaring out of chimneys on broomsticks had become widespread. The imagery was powerful. A figure departing the domestic hearth, rising through smoke and shadow to meet the night. This vision resonated in a time when women were increasingly confined to the household. Ironically, a mundane custom may have inspired this twist of legend. In some communities, women would leave a broom outside the door or place one inside the chimney to signal that they were away. The message was practical, but in the minds of a fearful public, it became mystical. And so the chimney became a portal, the broom a passport. By the 18th century, the great wave of witch hunts had finally begun to recede. The trials stopped. The gallows grew silent, but the image of the flying witch did not fade. Today, in modern neo-pagan traditions like Wicca, broomsticks, or besoms, still hold symbolic meaning, often used in rituals to sweep away negative energy. And while few practitioners claim to fly through the night sky, the legend lives on, especially each October when Halloween arrives, and the silhouette of a witch on a broom takes its place once again against the moon. What began as ritual became accusation, then legend. So the next time you see a witch in flight, remember, her journey began not in fantasy, but in fear, myth, and the long shadows of history. If you found this journey through shadow and superstition as fascinating as we did, don't vanish into the night. Subscribe to History Love for more untold stories, forgotten truths, and eerie origins from the past. Like this video if you enjoy the strange side of history, and share it with someone who still wonders what's hiding behind the legends. And if you have your own theory about why witches ride brooms, leave in the comments. We'd love to hear it. Until next time, keep your eyes on the skies and your mind on the mysteries of history.